Welcome back to Boundaries and Banter. We are your hosts, Taryn and Michaela. Today we have Nicole Nourian joining us. She is a licensed therapist who specializes in family dynamics, trauma, attachment. Welcome, Nicole. We're so happy to have you.
So happy to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your practice?
Yeah, so I have a private practice called How We Cope. And I've been working as a therapist for, 6 years now. It's crazy. And I work with people from all walks of life. I particularly do specialize in inner child healing, family dynamics, relationships, breakups, all the very fun stuff.
So we're here to talk today about the topic of estrangement. Like, we're in this blocked and blessed era. I feel like therapy language is often used, misused, overused, properly used, but just very prominent. And so let's cut it back to basics a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about what estrangement actually means, what it looks like, how it comes up in your practice?
Yeah. So if we think about the word estrangement, it has the word stranger in there. So essentially it's when someone that you're normally supposed to have a connected relationship with is becoming a stranger. So the connection is lost. A lot of people, like if you were to Google the definition, it says that it's with a spouse, but it's not. It can be with anyone, but it's mostly, when we talk about it, at least on a psychology framework, it's with family. And to speak to your point, Taryn, about this blocked and blessed, it's funny because I actually really agree. And this is coming from a therapist. Like, we only really see one side of things when we're seeing a client. And I think that if you don't have a therapist that really wants to challenge you to make sure that you're making like a right move in blocking out this person or making such a big decision, then you will fall into a situation where someone is validating you, not asking the right questions. And yes, we're very much about boundaries and quote unquote, like, I feel like selfish is almost trending. And we're very relational creatures, so it becomes super harmful. Now, with that being said, there's a whole other lens to this that I think people's tolerance is becoming a lot lower for what they want to put up with, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either.
Right. And so then we get into, I guess, the clinical justification for estrangement, not necessarily just what we're talking about as being, I don't really like this, so blocked, right? Because that's not necessarily, like, that's maybe the one lens. If you're not having a therapist that's challenging you, that's the one lens that they're seeing. So then there's this whole other lens of like what's really going behind the curtain.
So obviously there's the obvious reasons of why someone would want to walk away from a relationship. You have abuse or drug addiction even, but what are the other reasons that aren't maybe so obvious?
Do you mean
manipulation,
the other reasons that aren't so like drastic?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great question. I think it's bringing me the question of like, does it even need to be a drastic reason, right? And I think that for me, on a clinical sense, if someone is going to make a decision to be estranged from someone, there essentially would need to be a pattern, right? And I think that's the difference, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, between this blocked and blessed kind of theme that's going on for a lot of people versus someone that has been seeing a pattern within their family dynamic and an attempt to heal it, and there's no healing possible. So I think a lot of people get into situations where they're estranged with their family because they have said over and over again a type of boundary that they want.
And it's just not being respected.
And it's not being respected. I don't like the way that you talk to me. I don't like the way that you treat me, or you are doing something that has affected me for so long and you don't want to change. And I think that, there's always the option to put up with it, but then you have to ask yourself, like, how much is this actually affecting this person's mental health? And in being in proximity to that person, is there even an opportunity for you to be in that same room with someone without being affected?
Right. So when is low contact better than no contact?
Yeah,
right?
Totally. And I think we all do that, right? We all have family dynamics. We all have friends or friends of friends that we're like, okay, I could be in the same room with this person and still be okay with who I am, right? They won't approach me. They'll respect me. But when it comes to a point where you're going somewhere and this relationship has become so toxic or so disrespectful to what you want and you can't even be in the room anymore, I think that's a point where no contact. If you're doing, there's a Buddhist teaching that I really like, which talks about how if you are in a relationship that's going to cause harm, then you shouldn't be in it. But if no harm means to not connect, like if you're not going to be connected to that person and there will be less harm in the world, then that's a good reason to disconnect, right? Because we don't ever want to keep a relationship for the sake of keeping the relationship.
Of course. But I think sometimes it's easier said than done, you know, especially for those kids that, or for the people that it's your parents or, you know, a direct family member. You watch from the outside in, okay, I could see why this person is cutting out their mother or their father or their sister or their brother. But when it's you, it feels...
Meaning you, the person that's making the decision?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, for the record, I am not estranged from my parents or any of my siblings. But I think if I had to put myself in that position, I don't think that one would come to that decision lightly. So when someone comes to you and they are having these issues with a parent, a sibling, whatever the case, how do you get to that point that you guys, you know, or that your patient decides, okay, this is the best option for me. This is the only option.
I like that you said it was my patient because I would never be the person to initiate that. I would only support it in a situation where I feel like my patient or my client is making a decision that would wholeheartely open up more space
That's what makes you such a great therapist and great at what you do.
I mean, your therapist really shouldn't have an agenda other than
or an opinion, right? Like it's more to support you.
I think sometimes a therapist should have an opinion. Like I'm definitely not the therapist that's like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah,
like, sitting on the couch, but I do, and this is why I go back to it really depends on what kind of a therapist you're seeing. I do think it's important for people to see someone that is going to challenge them on, is this the right decision? Have you exhausted your options? Because again, we're relational creatures and nobody wants to be estranged with it, which I think is a really big thing for people to know. You know, a lot of the times, like when someone is estranged, they become, and we call this in therapy, the identified patient, which is like the identified patient in a family therapy dynamic is the person that brings up all the problems. So everyone comes to family therapy and they're like, well, Taryn's the problem, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're like, there's something wrong with her. But the truth is like, no, she's just triggering the whole system because she's not going with the status quo.
Right.
And so I think that something I really like to preach is that the person that's estranged, this is the hardest decision they've probably ever made in their life. And especially when it comes to a parent or a sibling, the amount of pain someone has to be in to cut off a relationship like that with their blood is immense. I mean, it's definitely something that you have to come to terms with, that the little connection of having a family is less important to me than the way that this family makes me feel.
The toxicity around it, right?
So would you say, like, in your practice, let's say you have a patient and they're kind of explaining, I'm going to butcher this, but you know, the saying death by 1,000 stones.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Okay. Oops. Death by 1,000 cuts. Okay. So you have a patient and that's kind of the example where you said, okay, it's not an obvious disastrous one thing moment. It's death by 1,000 cuts. They have not changed their behavior. It's consistently harmful. Maybe that's a situation in which they have come to the determination that estrangement really is the only option, and you're supportive in that decision, versus, you know, it being this one thing and it's just a reaction, right? So like, how do we differentiate it being reactivity, like just a reaction to something, versus a thought out decision of like, there's no other option for me here?
That's a great question.
Because I do think that's a really big issue, right?
Totally.
From the person,
it could be an impulsive decision,
but also from the recipient. So the recipient who's probably unaware of their death by 1,000 cuts, right? Because they keep doing it. So they're not aware that they're actually doing something harmful because they keep doing it no matter what you're telling them.
Then they feel like the victim in the whole situation.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, totally. I hear that. I think it's like, again, that would be a question I would ask is, have you communicated this? Hey, when you behave this way, I don't like it. When you do this to me, I don't like it. Versus them just seeing you get upset, right? That's a communication error. I think that when we talk about the difference between an impulsive reaction like that versus a long-term decision, the difference would be in, first of all, having a dialogue with yourself of what is it about this person or about this family that is triggering you so much? And is this a trigger, something that you need to work on, or have you done the work and now you're being presented with someone that is not doing any work at all or doesn't have that consciousness? And then there's the part of, a lot of people, I think, want to be liked. So a part of their fear in becoming estranged is, are these people going to think I'm the problem? Mm-hmm. And you can't have that mentality when you're talking about a toxic dynamic, right? That's why a lot of people stay. It's because they're like, I don't want to be the enemy.
Right.
Because a boundary of any sort is a threat to connection, which we've discussed
right.
so many
times. But if
times.
you're seeking people pleasing, then you're too afraid to be the villain to actually be the villain.
So it's easier to just stay in the same toxic dynamic and just brush it under the rug.
I think that people pleasers are having probably the worst times especially in cultures that are super family oriented, because they're not only concerned about their own feelings, but they're like, how is this going to make this person feel? Mm-hmm. And I actually don't want to shit on that, because I think that that's coming from a good place, right? But then you want to ask yourself, again, that kind of message that I was saying is this relationship causing more harm for this person's world and mine? Or is there a place to grow here where maybe I have to actually try to talk about this with them, or they have the self-consciousness to realize that they're doing something that hurts me? Because some people don't, and some people really will never change, which I think is what's so difficult.
Well, I mean, I think that also raises the question of if you have a patient that comes in that's set on, okay, I want to be estranged from this person, are they sometimes avoiding, personal growth?
Is estrangement ever a part of avoiding hard growth? I think yes. Yeah, definitely.
It's easier way out in some cases, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's not easy.
I mean, who wants to have a hard conversation? It's annoying. Honestly.
Yeah, it is.
It's really annoying.
Especially when you're going to be met with such resistance or defensiveness, right?
Yeah, because you're signing up to essentially most times be disappointed.
Yeah.
And this is even coming from a professional therapist, right? Even I have my limits where it's how I don't really want to go into the belly of the beast sometimes. And is that me avoiding hard growth? Yeah. There's also now I'm going to sound like that theme, but it's there is a part of me that's I have been saying the same thing for years to someone. And if I've been saying the same thing 2 years for someone and I feel like I'm just going to get the same reaction, I feel like I would view that in another person as them protecting their peace. But again, this is why I talk about the pattern. You have to really look at the pattern when it comes to estrangement. It should never, ever, ever be a 1-2 time thing. I mean, we're talking about limits, right? When I say it should never be a 1-2 time thing, I'm talking about something that's not putting you in severe harm. If someone's putting you in severe harm, we don't even need to be having this discussion. But I do think that in order to know, am I avoiding the hard work? That's something that you have to really know in yourself. Do I do this in other places? There's another thing that's is this person even important to you? Because a lot of the times we, I think, avoid the harder conversations when we don't believe that the relationship is important enough to stick. So would that be with a parent? Probably not. But, people can be estranged from aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, all of that. So I think that it really depends on how important the relationship is to you. But then also, are you in therapy? Are you talking to someone that has a third point of view here, and that they can kind of look at this from a place of you know what, Nicole, you should be really trying to communicate in this boundary and giving you the proper ways to communicate that. And if someone can't meet you there, is there another way? Do you have to learn how this person works? Or is there a safe environment for you to create a relationship with this person, like I said before, where you could be in the same room? You don't have to cut off from everyone else that's connected to them, versus like, yeah, there are people that are like, this is the easier way out.
So basically there's a lot of work that one needs to do or one should do before they get to that point where they say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. You know why? Because I have never met someone that is estranged and was like, I'm really happy about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like they might say, I feel less toxicity in my life. They might say I'm more at peace. But a lot of people take estrangement to the grave. And I don't think that sits well with anyone, especially when we're talking about family. I don't think anyone's sitting there and saying, I'm really happy.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
This is great.
Like if I could have dreamed of my dream situation, I would have a family that I would be estranged from. That's a dream. Like that's
nobody
not
wants it.
Yeah, nobody wants it.
I was just going to say people on the other end, like the one that is being cut off, the parent in the situation or the sibling. Do you think most of the time that person is like, oh my God, what the F just happened? How did we get to this? Do you think they genuinely are confused or?
Yeah, I do. Because if they thought something was so wrong that it would have ended up like that, they most likely would have created a different
situation.
A different situation. Yeah. I think that, again, and I think that's why people that are estranged become such villains, because it feels like random when it's like the person themselves have probably been like thinking on and off about this for years. But for everyone else, it's so easy to point the finger and be like, you're a horrible person,
What do you think it actually does to the psychology or the mind of somebody who's choosing estrangement? Because I feel like we always talk about how and we can get into that. I want to get into more about the identified patient theory and all of that. But just before, we talk about how the person who's choosing, albeit reluctantly, right? Like that's a last resort, estrangement, becomes the villain, or it really affects the person, the people who are being person or people that are being estranged. But what does it actually do to the psychology of the person who's doing it, right? Because I assume
the person who's choosing the estrangement.
Yeah, because I assume that to get there, there were probably a lot of microaggressions or things that disrupted their nervous system.
Well, can you imagine how unloved someone must feel to make a decision like that?
It's really horrible.
I can.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about the psychology behind what that person's going through, it's someone that feels really unwanted. When we feel desired, and I mean true desire, not like, we need you to be here because you're our family and that's what family does, right? Like, no, I value you. I love you so much. I'm going to sit here and change.
What a good point.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
I think so many people have that where someone in the family says it to them as though it's an obligation. Like, we need you here. You're our daughter. You're our this.
Family
you're our son.
is forever.
Family is everything.
Yeah.
Family above all
It's
else.
obligatory thing.
But what about we really love you? We really want to.
Yeah, I don't think someone that's choosing to be estranged is hearing a lot of that.
Yeah.
So then what do you think the choice of actually being estranged does to them? Is there grief in that person? Is there relief?
Of course. I think there's deep grief there, because in most cases, the relationship's not 100% bad, right? It's just more bad than good.
Yeah.
But you can still grieve the good.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's so heartbreaking for someone that chooses estrangement, is essentially they really did have to choose a situation for themselves where being away from it is better than being in connection to it. So yes, is there grief involved? Totally. I think that we can grieve people that are alive and also grieve the potential of like what that relationship would have looked like, togetherness, right? We all want that. Again, we're very relational creatures. Like that's what makes us different from a lot of different animals. Like we actually want to be unified. And so I think for someone that is choosing to isolate themselves, I mean, that's the word, they feel really isolated.
Yeah.
Then there's, I think, a really big layer of vulnerability. Like, you don't have this village that you essentially grew up with. So if you just imagine like the sheer vulnerability and kind of like protective layer being shut off in that moment for that person, like they have to create a whole new dynamic for themselves in the world, a way of figuring out who they are and what friends they want to keep, and can they create a family for themselves, or, you know? So I think that estrangement hurts both people.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, there's nobody that's happy in that situation. And I do feel like it could be avoided in a lot of ways. Like, if we stopped villainizing the person that walked away, and the way that we would stop villainizing it is actually to go back to one of your questions, is like, are they just avoiding the hard work? Because if they're not, if this is someone that like you can look at and you're like, they're really in tune with themselves, they've done the work, they have expressed this before, then you need to look at yourself, right? The family that is looking at this person that's estranged.
But that's assuming the family has the tools to do that, right? So like, right, if you're dealing with like there are cultural norms, right? So there are cultural norms in like more like Middle Eastern cultures, okay, where family is a tribe. It's everything. If you are breaking the dynamic, let's say it's a toxic dynamic, but if you are breaking that dynamic, right, you are the identified patient because you're breaking the norm. You're putting up a mirror to people that they don't want to see.
Yeah.
And so then you become this villain. And so let's say you're dealing with a lot of people who who have like emotional immaturity or narcissism because they were never taught the tools, and it's never going to happen, right? They're not going to change. Right. Then what?
I think a lot of people have a fantasy in their head of what this person could be. And, you mentioned that before.
Yeah. I think that would be the point where it's like, you need to walk away. And I think what's so hard about that is let's just go with the Middle Eastern family that's like super, super family oriented, very political type of, way of being. It's almost like even if there are individuals that know there are problems within the family dynamic, they still kind of team up against this identified patient because they're so afraid to rock the boat. So I think that's why a lot of people that become estranged from, like, let's say they're like, I don't want to talk to my mom, I don't want to talk to my dad, or I don't want to talk to my sibling. It's like, I can't talk to any of you because all of you have this mentality that family is forever, that there's an obligation, or you've known these people for so many years. Why would you give up? So again, imagine that person's like feeling like it's me against you guys.
Totally.
Which is a lot of what happens, and why I always talk about the identified patient is when they're going against the status quo, even the individuals that kind of know that they're right would rather keep up with the status quo.
Because it just feels like the definition of family loyalty to the people that are being estranged, like the people that would rather go with the status quo, the definition of family loyalty is really just don't break the dynamic, don't break the tribe, don't break the cycle. It's not, I actually need to stand up for the estranged person that feels this way because I care so much about them as an individual, which is what loyalty is.
It's more, let's stand up for the family instead of the individual. Let's stand up for the family as a whole.
Right, because the identified patient becomes a threat to the family.
Correct.
And I think that's a lot of the times like where estrangement could have been avoided is if there's multiple people saying like there's something wrong here. And I actually feel like family, it's interesting. Like I think if people went to family therapy earlier on for their issues with a really good therapist that can kind of is hearing, see, that's not just an individual. If you're going as an individual to an individual therapist, they're really just seeing one side, and it's usually after years of toxicity. But if you start to notice problems within your family dynamic, whether you're the kid or the parent, like, and it doesn't mean that the parent will always go. I'm talking about a situation where like there's still a little bit of hope. The best thing that you could do is go to someone that is watching all of your dynamics and all of your communication ways of being, because then you have someone that's presenting to you an opportunity for you guys to understand each other in a dynamic, even with a Middle Eastern family, for example, that is so afraid to break that
cycle.
Yeah, that cycle.
But that is a big assumption, that somebody is willing to go to therapy.
It is.
Because
It really
that
is.
is not, I don't think that's often the case.
A lot of people don't believe in therapy. Well,
Or then is...
But then you have, so then you have again, like, that's where I talk about, and I would agree with people saying that estrangement could be the easy way out, because you're not being confronted with your own accountability, right? I want to make myself really clear on this. Someone that is estranged, a person that's estranged, isn't necessarily like perfect. Right?
No.
It takes two for a relationship to break. And I think that's really, really important, because just like you could villainize the stranger, it's like you can also villainize the family of which they've been estranged from. And usually it's like two people just really not understanding each other, and two people that are in some ways unwilling to change.
Yeah.
So I think that's, I mean, to your point, not everybody wants to go to therapy, but when you're making a decision like this, and I'm not saying therapy is the answer to everything, I would never say such a thing, but I do think when you're making such a big decision, like, there should be work put into that.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you're just kind of banging your head against a wall, trying every avenue, and it becomes clear that you want to understand, or you've done the work to understand where you can do better or whatever, but the other person is just not willing at all to meet you where you're at. Like, they are not,
or even to be receptive.
Yeah. Or they're not even at all willing to be like, I need to take accountability too. Like, there is no...
That's a situation where you ask yourself, like, okay, do I love this person enough to be around them knowing
that it's going to be harmful,
that this is who they are?
Yeah.
Can I accept them for who they are, or do I not accept them? And if you don't accept them, that's when estrangement would occur. I do think that, we were just talking about this before we started on the podcast, but like, I feel like there is a whole other side of me that's kind of coming out, and I'm like, but if you have someone that has chosen to be estranged, like, really, maybe that's a moment to go to your own therapy and like try to view things from this person's like point of view. And I think that's really difficult. And again, I know we're talking about an ideal situation where someone's willing to do that.
Right.
Someone's open to the change. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just think that, like, in my personal life, like my sister died 3 years ago, and we were estranged at the time, and we had been estranged for 2-3 years before she passed. And for me, I spent 3 years being like, how could she hurt me? How could she have hurt me? She did this to me. She did this to me. It was like, everything was so personal. And I was like, she doesn't love her family. She only cares about herself. Like, all these things that, like, now knowing what I know, right, that she had spent the last like 3 years dying and felt like she couldn't separate me from the rest of the family that she had issues with, even though like me and her were always, she was my best friend. But I think that now that she's passed, something that really stuck with me was like a couple things. Like, one, pride. I think when someone chooses to be estranged, like, if you can take yourself out of it and really look at like the big picture. I love doing genograms with my clients. A genogram is almost like a family tree, but it's more a family tree of dynamics. And usually when you do a genogram of family dynamics, you always see why the quote unquote identified patient is all the way to the side. There's always something that's explaining why they're different, right? And so I remember doing that in like my own personal therapy, and I was like, oh my God, like, of course she felt this way. Mm-hmm. Of course she felt different. Of course she felt unloved at times. Of course she felt undesired. And do I excuse that decision? Not necessarily. But do I understand why someone would be in such a painful place that they felt like there was no other option, and why keeping a relationship, for example, with their sister would mean having to put up with other people and their family that had hurt them. Yeah, I do. And I really, really encourage people that are on the fence of thinking of being estranged or are currently estranged. It's like, without putting too much like toxicity of, being positive, I think it's just like you really should be exhausting all options.
Yeah.
You should really be exhausting all options because there is just so much pain in estrangement.
Yeah.
For both parties.
For both parties.
Yeah.
And especially, I know you keep bringing up like the parent and child relationship. I mean, that this is someone that shares half of your DNA. Like I would hope that someone makes an effort in that type of dynamic. If we're talking about narcissistic parents and abusive relationships, now we're talking about a whole other subject. Like I don't even need to justify that. Like that's just plain and simple. That person is never going to change.
You're saying if there is a narcissistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, right. So like in that situation, you're always in an unsafe environment. It's always unsafe. There's no hope.
The hope that you have, I think, is a fantasy in your head of what this person could be, but they will never be that.
And that's a really hard reality for a child to accept about their own
Terrible.
parent. But like when it comes to the point of affecting you, like your emotional regulation, your nervous system is just constantly disrupted. It's affecting your own family nucleus that you've created.
Totally.
There's no other option.
I don't think that there is.
Right.
And I know I have a lot of clients that come to me, and if they're considering estrangement with a parent, for example, they're always like, am I taking away a family from my child? I'm like, but what kind of a family would you really be giving your child? Like, and that's the question. Like, is it better to have a family that is just there? Or is it better to have friends and people that like love you and love this child so much that they can create a family dynamic? So I think that people feel really guilty too about like, why didn't I try harder? Or why am I cutting myself off from this when it also means cutting myself off from a lot of things? My child having a grandparent, my husband or my wife having an in-law, right? But then it's like, do they want that?
Right.
You're almost protecting them in a way.
Right.
And then you get to create your own life and your own, I'm just so big on energy too. Like, why would you want that energy?
100%. And there's also, I feel like with the identified patient theory where the estranged, let's say it isn't a parent-child dynamic, where if a child now creates kind of their own community or their own family through friends and, family that you create or choose, whatever, there's so much guilt associated with that. Like, they're not your blood.
How could you do
that? We raised you or your family, where it's like, these are the people that give me what I need and I don't feel unsafe.
I don't think there's anything more beautiful than that. I really don't. Like, to have a chosen family, that's how you break yourself free. Right? A lot of people that stay in their family dynamic stay there because they don't feel like they have another choice. And so I think that if you can find your people, this is such a big blessing, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's definitely difficult, but I think that it's like your kid's not going to know, is this person my blood aunt or my blood grandma? Or, like they're just like, is this person love me?
Yeah. And it almost feels like it's weaponizing culture and religion against you, right? Like let's say in Judaism, like you're less Jewish or like,
Okay, wait. Can I talk about that?
Yeah.
'Cause I love that. I love that. So I agree. I think that a lot of, I'm just going to stick with Judaism because it's such a family-oriented religion that it almost makes you feel like if I am to cut off someone from my life, am I a bad Jew? Or am I like not? Totally. Like, am I not fulfilling what, if we bring God into it, am I not fulfilling what God wants from me? And I actually, I'm also really into Kabbalah, and I spoke to my Kabbalah teacher about this a while ago. And he was like, if someone's shooting at you, like seriously, like has a gun to your head, is like shooting at you, are you gonna like reason with them to try to connect? Like, are you gonna like sit there and be like, well, why are you shooting at me? And why do you feel this way about me? Or are you gonna run off? You're gonna run off. And if we're bringing something like Judaism into it, it always says choose life. So part of choosing life
So true.
is to choose happiness.
Is David your teacher?
David Young? No, Joseph Grunman. He's amazing. In case anyone wants.
I'll get you. Yeah, I will after this.
But it was really like eye-opening for me. I mean, the choose life is my own.
Such a good point. That's such a good point.
But then how do you, I feel like for a lot of people, they're like, well, honor your mother and father. It's part of the 10 Commandments.
You can honor your mother and father without having
a relationship. Even rabbis will say you don't have to, honoring your mother and father, respecting your mother and father doesn't mean agreeing to be abused by them.
This brings me back to that point I was making in Buddhism. It's like, you're not doing anyone a favor if the relationship that you're having with someone is causing harm. So I view that very similarly. Like, you can honor your parents even by not having a relationship with them, because in a way you're like, you bring out the ugly in me. I can't respect you if I'm in dynamic with you, right? If I'm in connection with you, I can't respect you. So in a way, sometimes the disconnection is the only way to keep that person safe and you.
Totally.
Yeah.
It just feels so unfair when people weaponize something so dear to you to validate their otherwise unjustified point. Does that make sense? Right. So like,
can you like explain?
No, to be like, but the Torah says honor your mother and father. I mean, you're choosing estrangement. Like, you are in breach of your religious duties to Hashem or whatever.
I think that's a way, when people say that, it's like a way for them to reel you back in, right? Like
a control tactic.
Exactly. Because they don't want this to happen. But they're also not understanding, like how Nicole has explained, you didn't go to sleep one night and wake up the next day and say, estranged. I'm just going to be estranged. What a great idea.
Nobody wakes
Love
up
this
and
for
says
me.
that.
No one, it takes a lot of work and therapy to get to that decision.
Yeah. And I want to add something else. Like, hatred and resentment are never good feelings for you to hold on to. And even in an estranged relationship. So I think that there's a healthy way to be estranged. I don't even know why I put that in quotes.
What does that look like? That's a really good point.
Yeah. Like, it's like, you can say to yourself, I know that my dynamic with this person is unhealthy. I know that we don't work well together. We both harm each other. But when I am apart from them, I'm not going to gossip. I'm not going to put them down. I'm not going to hold hate in my heart. And that doesn't mean forgive, by the way. Like, I'm not too like being like butterflies and rainbows today. We got to be realistic. But that's for you. Like, that's not a good feeling to have, to like not keep sending like bad energy towards someone. So I actually think a healthy way to be estranged is like, I just hope they're okay. I wish them well. And I wish them peace at the very least.
Like we said on one of our episodes, we said, I want to see them do well. I want to see them bloom, just not in my garden.
Beautiful.
Right.
Love that.
Like that
like hits it on the nail.
You want to be the highest version of yourself for you. And that version of yourself isn't talking about them horribly in closed rooms.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's forgiving them and wanting them in your life.
Yes, because I just want to mention, like, hatred is the same thing as love. It holds the same exact energy. So if you're like, I hate this person, and all you're doing is talking about how much you hate them, you're still very much connected to them.
Yeah.
Indifference is the opposite of hate,
100%.
not love. So I think that's also really important when we talk about what does healthy estrangement looks like. Healthy estrangement is you choosing distance to protect the both of you while not having to actively participate in hatred or negative energy, because that's still a connection.
Totally. Tangibly, what does it look like? Like, does it look like I'm blocking you? I'm telling you I'm estranged. You know, how do we give the people the tools to actually make that decision? Because I know in some cases, like when you are dealing with someone with borderline personality disorder or narcissism, it's not really something that you communicate verbally because you're never going to get what you want.
It's going to cause a fight.
It might not necessarily be the best choice.
Yeah. I would say you're not communicating at that point for them. You're communicating for you, knowing you're not going to get a response that you want. And the response you're not there for the response. But I do think that we should be practicing just communicating exactly why we're saying what we're saying, because that could be the last message that person reads from you, right? And it's probably a message that they'll read over and over again.
So you recommend it?
Yeah. I recommend it in a space that keeps you safe, right? If we're talking about someone that's abusive, or we're talking about someone that's very reactionary, and it would be a loud conversation. I'm not talking about like, hey, let's go to coffee and I'm going to tell you I'm going to be estranged from you. You know, like send a letter or send a text message. So whatever, feels good for you. But should you just cold turkey make a decision like that? No.
So like say what you need to say, but if you know it's going to put you in a position that's going to be unsafe, maybe block them from responding, but they know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Again, that would be the benefit, right? Like they know why I'm doing what I'm doing, but it's really not about, it's like about you. Like you don't want to feel like I didn't give a reason for why I did what I did. I think that's a really big deal for people if they're making such a big decision, like you want closure for yourself. I was just going to say, you probably,
the person that's doing the act, that is deciding to become estranged from whoever it is wants closure.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't get closure from someone else. I mean, I would say that even if we're talking about breakups.
Like, I mean, no matter what, if you're going to go and tell someone, hey, this relationship is no longer happening, you're not going to get the response that you want or that you have in your head.
Yeah. You have to,
it's more for you.
Do that for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would, to go back to your question, Taryn, about like more tangible things, I would just imagine that it's really hard to be estranged from someone and still see them on social media and have access to them with, phone numbers and all of that. And again, like I don't think estrangement looks the same for everyone, like something that, again, just bringing myself into this really quickly, but like something that I really regret is my sister, before she decided to estrange from the family, like she actually didn't tell. I was still like her little sister, so she didn't actually like tell me like, I can't talk to you. She was like, here's my email. And I was so immature that I was like, fuck that. Like, the fuck? Like, you're giving me your fucking email? Like, you've been my sister for 20 years of my life, 21 years. Like, that was the age where she decided to estrange from me. And I'm like, I'm not fucking emailing you. Like I found it so offensive, where I realized that was actually her trying to let me in. Yeah. And it's one of the deepest regrets in my life. I mean, I did try to like text her from other numbers and whatever, but like, yeah, it's like estrangement has to look very individual and it has to work for you. I think for a lot of people, like any sort of connection, any sort of reminder, I mean, that I would just imagine that that's really painful.
Right. Mm-hmm. Like even if you ignore it, getting a text for someone you've chosen to be estranged from because they're damaging, it infiltrates your psyche whether or not you realize it.
Totally.
I feel like it's more pressure and stress weighing in on your head, when the easiest thing would have been to just block them out of your life so you don't even get those messages or those.
They still keep you connected in some way.
Yeah. I really like that you brought up grandchildren too, because I think that that's a huge huge topic of conversation when it comes to estrangement, when a kid becomes estranged from their parent or their parents or whatever it is. And then, they have children and it's like, well, I should have access to your children. And I feel like a lot of the times there is this thought that for grandparents that they are owed access to their grandchildren. And how I view it, at least, is children do not owe their parents. And by virtue of that, grandchildren do not owe their grandparents. It is a privilege to be in your children's life and in their children's lives.
Yeah.
I always talk to my mom about this, actually. I have 2 kids, and she always says it's such a privilege to be around you and your kids. I do not owe anybody I mean,
This
at
is
least
your
the way I
mom?
see it, my mom, yeah.
That's beautiful.
She always says it's such a privilege to be around us. I do not owe anyone access to my children.
No.
No.
No one.
No. You
But I
really
think
don't.
for people that are estranged from their parents and do have kids, I don't think it's an easy situation.
No, it's not. That's kind of what I was saying before. Like, I think a lot of people don't make the decision because they feel like they're cutting their child off from having I mean, it's a part of life. Like for a lot of people that are blessed to have grandparents, like to have a grandparent. But I think that you have to ask yourself that question, like, would that be healthy for my child? In some cases, by the way, some grandparents are like able to completely treat their grandchildren different.
Normally,
whether that's
yeah.
like they're not threatened by their grandchild the way they're threatened by their daughter or their son, like, right? But in most cases is that really a dynamic that you're
Well, in that
wanting your
case,
child
couldn't you
into?
say you wouldn't want your kids around someone who could disrespect you or your partner?
Yeah, if they're doing it in front of your children, absolutely. It's so individualized. So I try not to, speak too general because I think there's so many different cases. But if we're talking about someone that in your own home is disrespecting you in front of your children, that's not safe for your children to even see.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, rapid fire. Can no contact be temporary?
Yes.
What does that look like?
That looks like taking a break and revisiting a conversation and seeing if the two of you have put in the work for change to happen.
Does that really exist where
Yes.
does it exist where somebody has a more severe issue, whether it's like narcissism or BPD?
No, I just want to make myself really clear. Actually, borderline personality disorder is very different from narcissism. Borderline personality disorder can be worked on. It's very hard.
It's hard.
It's so hard, but it's not an end all be all. I hate to say that narcissism is an end all be all because I think there's 1 in a million that is willing
The exception.
The exception to the rule.
That is the exception. So if you have someone that's 1 in a million, sure. But if it's a narcissist, no.
No.
Like, no. No.
Okay.
We talked about a few of these already about,
Holidays.
Yeah,
What
holidays.
about holidays? What about when you are no contact with someone who's harmful to you and your family and the holidays come and they are expecting that you are at their dinner table?
Well, I think if you're no contact, then you wouldn't go, right?
I don't know. Holidays bring up sensitive things, nostalgia.
Emotions.
I think it's so hard because it comes back to this like togetherness, like especially if you grew up doing holidays and then you don't feel like you have someone else to do it with. My biggest advice would be like, no, don't go back into like the place that made you feel horrible.
Right.
Create your own. I see this. I really want people to understand this. Like, you have the ability to create your own family. And like, there's so much beauty in that.
So
And
much.
you don't even have to be married for that. Like, when I say family, I mean your friends. Like, if you want to celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, like, have your friends over and create a community around that.
I really feel that. Like, I was really blessed with amazing, beautiful best friends that have traveled with me throughout life. And even like friends throughout life, like you and I are friends.
Yeah.
Nevin's, your husband is a fantastic person. And I just feel like the opportunity to create your own families and lives is such a beautiful thing.
It really is.
Yeah. That's liberation.
Yeah.
That's liberation at its finest.
I think this is a good question. What if that person that you decided to be estranged from gets sick?
That's
And I'm
really
not talking
hard.
about like they get a cold.
Yeah. You're talking about something terminal.
Yeah. Would it be like you decide in the moment, am I going to reach out and say something? Or I guess it's individualized, like you
the
said.
question for you is like, would you have regrets? And if you were, and there's something you want to say, are you able to create safety in that conversation? And I do think it's really individualized. Again, like, people choose to estrange for really different reasons. And I actually think terminal illness brings a lot of families together because it shows how short life is. But I think it's like, at the same time, someone like a narcissist could be terminally ill and they're still a narcissist. So like, I think at that point you would be doing something for your conscious and theirs, not to actually fix the relationship.
Got it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. We had so much fun with you.
Yeah, this was really informative. I'm so happy that we had you.
Having me.
We'll see you guys next week.